The following program, Live and Learn, is made possible by Aging Partners. Find out more on their website at agingpartners@lincoln.ne.gov.
Hello, I'm Jerry Renaud. Today on Live and Learn, we have a very special guest. It's the Chancellor of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, Ronnie Green. He's going to be on to talk about all of the great things that the university is doing and the impact that it has on the state. It should be great. Stay tuned.
What is a fighter? A warrior who puts forth determined effort to overcome an adversary. This is an apt description for those facing the battle of Parkinson's disease. Please stay with me as I talk with Deborah Williams and Ryan Moling about a new class addressing this effort, Rock Steady Boxing.
I'm Lita Powell Drake, and this is an ice axe, and it belongs to Robert Kay, who just last year, at age 54, climbed to the top of Mount Everest, over 29,000 feet. An exciting story coming up. Stay tuned.
Hi, welcome to Live and Learn. My name's Kim Hachia. Stay with us as we learn today about some of the latest activities in health and fitness from our friends at Aging Partners.
This and more on today's Live and Learn.
Hello and welcome to Live and Learn. I'm your host, Jerry Renaud. I think most Nebraskans understand the importance and the value of the University of Nebraska to the state, but I really have had the privilege of being at the university for a long time, and I really have discovered over the years some of the really incredible things that the university does, whether it's in teaching or research. And so I convinced the fine folks here at Aging Partners and Live and Learn that we needed to do a segment about the university and talk about some of the things that it's doing. And if you're going to do that, you really need to go to the top, right? So I am very delighted and honored as our special guest today is the Chancellor of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, Ronnie Green. Chancellor, thanks for being with us. I know it's a busy time of year for you.
It's a real pleasure to be here and to have a chance to talk about the People's University for our state and all the great things that are happening. And couldn't be more pleased, Jerry.
Now, I know you've actually been at the university for quite a while. You're starting your second year as Chancellor, but and I really want to read this because this is a great title. You were the Vice Chancellor of the Nebraska Institute of Agriculture and Natural Resources and Vice President for Agriculture and Natural Resources of the University of Nebraska System. How did you get that on a business card?
It was tough. It was tough. Yeah, I did have the real privilege of serving the university for 6 years prior to becoming Chancellor a year ago, in the role that kind of leads all of the agriculture and natural resources, food, people programs of the university, not only at Lincoln but across the state, where that entity had about 600 employees across Nebraska in every county in the state, leading those programs that we're really well known for. So a year ago I did kind of make this change and had the real honor of being able to become the 20th Chancellor of UNL, and it's been quite a year since.
Yeah, you get a chance to travel around the state. You get a chance to meet with lots of people and alums and all of those things. How do you assess sort of how things have gone for this first year?
Well, you know, we're going to be 150 years old here coming up shortly in 2019. So if you look at the university, where we've been historically and where we are currently, this is kind of what I would call a real inflection point time in our history, where we're bigger than we've ever been in size and the number of students that we have, and planning to get bigger in our enrollment in the future. Being now a mature member of the Big Ten, and the Big Ten Athletic and Academic Conference has been a big deal for us. You know, Nebraska is kind of a unique place. We all know that. We live here, we enjoy this place called Nebraska, but the university is unique here too, relative to the state, where I talk about it being the DNA of our state in so many ways. And as we've grown up with the state, you know, celebrating its 150th anniversary this year, it's been such a part of the fabric of our state. I see that everywhere I go. I was out in early August visiting communities from one end of the state to the other, and listening to citizens of the state talk about the impact that we have. You know, we turn out most of the teachers and prepare people that are most of our doctors and our lawyers and our bankers and our business leaders and our community leaders through the state. It's true to say, you know, we in many ways are the DNA underneath the state of Nebraska.
It's kind of fun that people tend to stay in Nebraska, or in some cases they graduate from the university, they move on, and then they decide, oh, I'm going to raise a family, I'm going to come back to good old Nebraska.
Well, you know, Jerry, we welcomed our students back to campus here just in the last few weeks, and as we did that, I talked to our freshman class when they were coming in the Friday before classes started. You know, I looked out at those 5,000 young people and a few less young people. We have a mixture of students today, and thought about where they will go and what they will do when they complete their degrees 4 years from now or 5 years from now. And they do. Many of them stay here in our state and become the leaders of our state for the next generations of time ahead of us. But they also go everywhere. We have graduates all over the world. We just had commencement in August for our summer commencement, and we reached that about 285,000 degrees that the university has granted in its history, 190,000 living alumni spread throughout the world, with the greatest concentration of them right here in our borders in the state of Nebraska. So the reach is far, wide. We're very proud of our students and our alums.
You mentioned the freshmen. I think one of the interesting challenges, and it's sort of one of the challenges we face in our area as well, is, you know, what the jobs are right now may not be what the jobs are in 4 or 5 years. So the challenge of what you teach them, how you teach them to learn is a challenge.
Yeah, I finished my PhD from the university here in the late 1980s. Then I was a college professor for 15 years. So I remember in the 90s thinking about the speed with which change was happening, the changes these students were going to have in their career or their professional life. That's only accelerated in the last 15 years. So if you think about those students that were beginning in their education today, most statistics say that they will change points in their career 7 or 8 times at a minimum during their lifetime as in their professions. In my world or your world, that was kind of unthought of, right?
Yeah.
You went into a field, you stayed in that field, often stayed in the same employment throughout your career as my father did or our predecessors did. So the speed with which it's changing, we have to be able to think ahead in working with the students today, realizing that probably 3/4 of those 7 or 8 positions they may have don't exist today.
Right.
You know, and many of the ones that do exist may not exist 10 years from now in that sense. So it's a dynamic, exciting time thinking about the future that they're going to have, and while we're doing our best job to educate them to that future.
Yeah, and one of the things I also wanted to ask, I think a lot of people don't understand the many tentacles that the university has across the state, and you get a chance to see a lot of those.
Yeah, well we certainly do. Many people think of the university and they think of Lincoln, right? Or they think of the campus in downtown Lincoln or East Campus over a few miles away here in town. And those are certainly our hubs. You know, the central hub location, 9 academic colleges, 26,000 students, you know, 6,500 faculty and staff that largely are represented in Lincoln. But we also have research centers throughout the state. We have extension presence throughout the state, and Nebraska Extension that's part of the university. So those tentacles go far and wide for UNL alone. Then you have the Med Center, then you have the urban campus in Omaha, the Kearney campus in UNK. They're also part of our university system. So a very wide range of programs that we offer. In Lincoln here, you know, we're the flagship comprehensive campus of the system, the original land-grant university for our state. So we cover that full breadth, you know, 9 academic colleges, everything from engineering to law to agriculture to architecture to fine and performing arts to arts and sciences to education and human sciences, across the board business. We just opened a fabulous new $84 million business building here this past month that students are benefiting from for the first time this fall. So that comprehensive nature of the university is to reflect that comprehensive nature of our state. And the research that we do there, the education that we do there, and then the outreach of that education through that extension and engagement mission, we feel has never been more important.
Yeah, the research, I hope we get a chance to talk about that, because again, when I was a department chair and I got to go to these meetings and we'd go around the room and people would talk about the things that they're doing.
Sure.
It is incredible. The kinds of things that are happening at the university and the kinds of research that's being done. But first of all, I do think we need to talk about the budget. That is an area that lots of people are concerned
Sure.
about, and I know it's something you're concerned about, but you're trying very hard to keep things positive and keep things where they are.
Sure. Well, as I mentioned earlier, Jerry, I mean, we're at this really interesting point in our history where all the arrows are pointing up. Right, huge momentum in enrollment growth, huge momentum in graduates, number of graduates we're producing. Our commencements have had record commencements the last 3 years, and the number of our students who are going into the workplace, research reaching all-time record highs year on year. So great things happening at the university. But the state is under a fiscal crunch.
Right.
We're all aware of that. The economy is slowed. The ag economy is in kind of a trough at this point in time. My old stomping ground, so to speak, in agriculture is tough at the moment. And as a result, the state has had to think very carefully about its budget, as we know from the last legislative session when this 2-year budget we're in now was initially set. The university, broadly writ, is one of the 3 largest line items in the state budget. So it goes without saying that we have to do our part in managing through that fiscal constraint. But we're quite optimistic about that. UNL, for example, we operate on just over a $1.2 billion budget for collectively the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. There's about $260 million of that is state aided, that is appropriated from state support. It's an important part of our budget. It's a lot of our salary budget on our faculty and our staff. So we're addressing some downturn in that, but we're doing it in ways, I think, Jerry, that we feel like we're going to come out of this period even better than we have been before in the way we're transforming the way we do some of our services. So certainly a tightening period, but we're fortunate in that we're experiencing that growth at the same time in enrollment and research that is helping us buffer through that those financial constraints.
Okay, good. Most people, when they think about the university, they think about young people. But there are some other programs as well. There's the Osher Lifelong
Yes.
Learning Institute, the OLLI program that I know a lot of our audience is involved with, and I know it's something you're really proud of.
Well, we believe in lifelong learning. The university says that to our students. The first day we get them is you're going to be lifelong learners. One of the very first things that happened to me when I came to the university in 2010 in the ag role we talked about earlier was I was asked to come speak to an OLLI class that fall about food security around the world and what that looked like long term. How were we going to feed 2 billion more people by 2050 as the population of the world grows and so forth. So OLLI is a huge gem for Lincoln, for our state, where people have the opportunity to pick from this wide array and cafeteria of classes every term, to be able to participate and continue learning and continue broadening their reach and their intellect, often taught by emeriti faculty of the university. The leadership of OLLI kind of came out of that background. Many of the classes for OLLI meet on the university campus in some way, as well as other campuses here in our city. So a huge gem that I know many of the listeners of this show hopefully are participating in and taking advantage of that opportunity.
I'm sure they are, and I've had a couple of chances to go and appear in an OLLI class. It's really invigorating.
Yeah, I think I'm
to
teaching.
see.
I'm in one this fall.
Oh, good.
We have a series, if I remember correctly, in October that I'm going to be doing a session of Dondi Plowman, our Executive Vice Chancellor and Chief Academic Officer of the campus, is doing one. Mike Boehm, our ag leader, is doing one in that class about changing needs in higher education, and we're excited about that. That dialogue this fall.
Yeah, it's really an engaged audience. I mean, they ask questions. They want to learn.
They do. I remember that first one that I taught, and I had to have my P's and Q's in order.
Oh, yes. You had to be ready to go.
Yep.
we're going to run out of time. I hate this. You're going to have to come back. But one of the things that I really did want to talk about was there was a report that came out that showed that Lincoln was one of the safest communities for college campuses, and I just think that's got to be a great thing.
It's, you know, there's all kinds of rankings about higher education that are out there, and we do well in almost all of them. Recently, that's one where we were recognized as one of the safest campuses in the United States in higher education. We were recently ranked one of the 20 best value public universities in the country. Our law school was ranked as the best value law college in the United States. We're one of the top 15 fastest growing research universities in the country. So all of those are points of pride for us, but nothing to us is more important than the safety and the security of our students. They come here to learn, they come here to be challenged, they come here to challenge their own horizons, and we're very proud of that fact that we have a welcoming, safe, welcoming to all kind of community at the University of Nebraska.
And all of that really, I think, feeds into one of the key areas that the university is concerned with, and that's recruiting and getting more students here.
That's right. I mentioned that, you know, we're at this kind of record time point. Last fall, when we started school, we had 25,900 students on our campus, the biggest number we'd ever had. Previously, that was 1981. And we exceeded that by almost 650 more students than we had in 1981. This fall, we're up again and have another record enrollment in our history. So we're recruiting more students from a wider range of places. And we have students on our campus from almost every state in the United States. We have students from 136 countries around the world studying with us here in Lincoln. Today, about 2/3 of our students, still Nebraska residents, first and foremost, and that other third of our students come from all over the world. So we want more and more people to come here, to stay here, to be educated at the University of Nebraska.
Chancellor, thank you so much. We're out of time. I had so many more questions. I hope you'll come back and talk to us again sometime.
Anytime. Thanks
Thank
for
you
the
very
opportunity.
much. And thank you for tuning in. And always remember, it's never too late to live and learn.
I'm Kristen Stoes, and it is my pleasure to welcome two individuals leading the fight against Parkinson's disease with a class named Rock Steady Boxing. Deborah Williams, Director of the Air Park Rec Center, and Ryan Moling, Athletic Supervisor and Rock Steady Coach. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to have you on Live and Learn today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Could we start by hearing about each of your backgrounds? Deborah?
I started working for Parks and Recreation in 2002, and I became the center director at Air Park just this last May.
Oh, okay.
So brand new at the job out there.
Good.
I am a recreational therapist, and so I think my background in therapeutics will serve me well in adapting programs and assisting the participants in Rock Steady Boxing.
I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does. Ryan, how about you?
Yeah, I've been with the city for approximately 15 years also, and went to Rock Steady Boxing coaching training back in April of 2016. I have a degree and my background falls with recreation management, so it seems to fit well also.
Sure, it certainly does. Well, Rock Steady is a national program. Could we briefly hear the history of the program and how you got interested in bringing it to Lincoln?
Yes, in 2006, in my understanding, Scott Newman in Indiana, who is a Marion County prosecutor at the time, was diagnosed with early onset Parkinson's. And at that time, he just wanted to crawl into a hole and just kind of shut down. One of his best friends who went to a gym and boxed regularly invited him out and got him interested in it, and he was noticing differences in good ways. We decided, after seeing a CBS Sunday Morning presentation back in November of 2016 or 2015, that we should go ahead and go to the training and try and get this incorporated here in Lincoln. And luck would have it, we got it, and we started things in July 2016.
So it's been ongoing since 2016,
yes.
And I have to say you have a very professional setup. Your boxing ring is fabulous.
Thank you.
So as we start watching some video and some photos, please talk about what someone could expect when they register for Rocksteady, and also kind of what the class entails.
What we do is a class format basically looks like when they show up, we do a big question of the day where they're using their big voice, working on projecting their voice, etc. Once they get through that question of the day, we go into basically warm-ups. They do some dynamic stretching and some form walking, and then we do 5 to 10 minutes of core exercises before we enter into the 9 rounds of boxing. Those 9 rounds of boxing, it's literally boxing training. It's not like the contact sport necessarily, but we are doing the training that boxers would do. And we go through the 9 rounds of boxing before we do some cool down activities and get them on their way. So.
Wow. And Deborah, do you have things to add to that?
We also at times end with functional skills, such as learning how to stand up from the seating position and wrist rolls, and work on those fine motor skills. So it's a very well-rounded program.
It is a very well-rounded program, and I thoroughly enjoyed my visit during class that day. These fighters are working so hard. That's what impressed me.
Yeah.
Don't you feel like they give
Absolutely.
110%?
Yes.
Absolutely, all the time. And with Tony being our coach, it's really a scenario where he's a great motivator. He's good at pushing them to their limits. They talk about Rocksteady boxing being forced, intense exercise. Really, you're not forcing them to do anything, you're pushing them to their limits. You want them to work as hard as they can during that hour and a half and really improve physically, mentally, socially, etc. But Tony, being the coach, really has it dialed in when it comes to what these fighters need. We were really lucky and fortunate to find Tony when we were looking for an assistant
he is
coach
a true
or
leader.
a coach.
He
is.
a true leader, and he has worked with Parkinson's patients even previous to this. Is
He
that
did.
true?
Yeah, when we interviewed Tony, we had found that he had done some personal training with a gentleman that had Parkinson's, and he understood the importance of working on, like Deborah said, those little day-to-day functional skills and tasks. You know, everything from changing clothes, tying shoes, etc. And it really turned out that he knew how to focus on those things and do exercises and whatnot to adapt to those needs.
And another thing that impressed me, you really move quickly from one activity to another.
Yeah. There's at the most a minute rest break in between each round, just like you would have with a boxing match.
It seems like you have addressed so many issues with this class. I was very impressed by it. Tell me, are all physical levels of participants able to take part in this class?
Absolutely. It is a class designed just for participants diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, but there's 4 different levels. We have level 1 and 2, which is more of an independent level, and the disease is not progressed as severely. And then we have level 3 and 4, which is a more dependent level.
I see.
Sometimes those participants may come to us using the aid of a cane for assistance, and so we make it very individual after the assessment and adapt the program that works for each individual and to meet their needs.
That's perfect. That's perfect. That's what everyone needs. Even though this is physical exercise, does it help the vocal issues?
As we go throughout the 9 rounds of boxing, we're talking about everything from counting your punches on a heavy bag to speaking to individuals and calling their names as maybe you're tossing a ball to them, etc. And all this is done over music that's played as motivation. So we try to turn it up a little bit so they have to use that big voice.
Yes, that makes sense. Well, I can't help but see the metaphor in the word fighter. It certainly applies to everyone in that class. Do you feel that they actually see their opponent as Parkinson's disease while they're there?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If they weren't doing a class like this and getting the benefits out of Rocksteady boxing, they would let their guard down, and Parkinson's would definitely win. And so this allows them to win the fight against
Yes.
Parkinson's
Yes.
and develop the skills to slow the progression down.
I'm certain visualizing that is helpful for them. I did talk to one of your fighters, Judy Johnson, and I asked her what it means to her to be a fighter in Rock Steady, and this was her response. To me, fighter means not caving in to Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease does not have to mean you curl up in a corner and give up. It means striving hard as long as you can to remain independent. And I certainly thank Judy for that quote, and I have to say she is a delight. And I began by asking her if she ever thought in her life she would box. And she laughed and she said, no, I never thought that I would take part in a boxing class. But that truly brings into focus the humor and the camaraderie and the ease with which everyone relates in that class. Would you not agree with that?
Absolutely, and one of the things we joke about is a lot of these fighters are grandparents, and to be able to go home and spend time with family and put on the gloves around grandkids is something that they enjoy doing and teasing the kids
That
about.
would be
et cetera.
impressive, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you also have a wonderful visual in a chalkboard. Talk about that a little bit.
The chalkboard is where we put the question of the day, and so that gives the participants a chance to talk about their similarities and differences within the Parkinson's disease that they have, and they can give each other ideas on what has worked for them and what may has not worked so well. So they're a support group within themselves. They completely support each other, and as Ryan said earlier, on the social level and the physical level, and can help each other out with new ideas of what they could try to assist them.
And isn't that fabulous?
It
when
is.
they can help each other.
Yes.
I think that's wonderful. Do you actually see physical improvement in your fighters?
Absolutely. We've seen everything from weight loss, basic weight loss. Judy has commented on that several times of nothing better than gaining friends, losing a couple pounds and doing something that you haven't done before. It's been a scenario where we've got a recent fighter that's joined us that has had a history of drumming for a couple different bands, and he has gone from, hey, you know what, I know I make mistakes from time to time, to his last experience drumming for the band, he didn't make any mistakes. And so there's a lot of physical improvements beyond the weight loss and the strength, etc., but they're also gaining balance back.
That is so
et cetera.
important.
So,
That is so
yeah.
important. Well, I know even 10 years ago, physical exercise really wasn't stressed as much as it is now in Parkinson's. Do you think that this is kind of the direction that therapies are going with even dance classes for Parkinson's patients and other kinds of?
Yes, and something we were talking about the other day with population aging as a whole, your baby boomers getting older, etc. It's a scenario where we're going to see that need for more opportunities. We would love to see Rock Steady Boxing add sites in Lincoln. It gives more opportunity for the thousands that have been diagnosed and identified. We also have, like I said, the one gentleman that's a drummer, and he's looking at starting a drumming class for either our fighters or additional fighters that have that interest in music. And it would really work on that functional skill with, you know, the eye-hand coordination, etc.
Yes, yes, that's a fabulous idea. Music would be
Yeah.
a wonderful thing to promote, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. I do have one more quote to share from Dr. Alan Nissen, who believes strongly in the benefits of exercise in his fight with Parkinson's disease. Alan says, I'm a big fan of Rock Steady Boxing program. It reduces my tremors, increases my stability, and helps my fine motor skills. I credit my personal workouts and Rock Steady for the apparent lessening of my symptoms and a more positive attitude. When I don't work out, I am more tremulous, fatigued, and anxious. The key to work out 6 to 7 days a week for 90 minutes of vigorous activity. It lessens the Parkinson's problems. The option is to sit on the sidelines and complain, why me? And that attitude is not going to allow us to win this never-ending fight and battle. And I thought that was so well said, and I certainly
well
thank
said.
Alan for that. He has been on the front lines of exercise with Parkinson's disease since day one.
He has.
Yes,
Yes.
and he finds a huge benefit. We are going to be putting your contact information on screen, and I'd like to hear one final thought from each of you on the Rocksteady program.
I would encourage everyone who may have Parkinson's disease or know a family member or a loved one and not sure if the program is for them to give us a call, set up an assessment, and come out and try the class and see if it is for you, because you're not going to know until you come out and participate and try and meet everyone else that's there and see the program in
Yes.
action.
And I think Judy Johnson did mention that too. She said, don't just come once. Come at least twice and see if this is for you. And I think that's such a good point to make.
Absolutely.
Ryan?
Yeah, the one point I would make in conjunction with that is we're always looking for help too. It's a scenario where they need corner people helping. We need assistance, whether it be with coaching, etc. So if you have an interest in helping out, or you have a background in nursing or personal training or neurology, etc., we would love to have you on board. We'd love for you to come out and either volunteer or apply for a part-time job and help out with the Rocksteady boxing program.
There are many moving parts and responsibilities to this program, and it appears to me that you have it all going very well. So,
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Deborah Williams, Ryan Moling, thank you so much for being on Live and Learn and bringing this news to us about Rocksteady.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so
bet.
much for having us.
Thank you. And to all of you, as always, please remember, it's never too late to live and learn.
Hi, I'm Lita Powell Drake, and today our guest is Robert Kay, who climbed Mount Everest at 29,035 feet, and he lives right here in Lincoln, and what a story he has to tell. Welcome back to Terra Firma.
Thanks, Lita.
Nice to have you here.
Nice to be here.
We got so many things to talk about because you've had such an extraordinary experience. But let's first of all look at some of the equipment that you had to use as you were climbing Mount Everest.
Sure. So these are my boots. They're a triple boot. There's a boot inside a boot, which is like a ski boot is, but then there's a third boot on the outside. And they're, you thought they were kind of heavy. They're actually pretty light for as big as that they are. You got to have big, thick, warm boots to keep your feet from freezing. Come back with all your toes. I actually have a funny story in the boots. I suffered from cold feet terribly in my first few attempts. And then I finally figured out that my feet were swelling a lot. And when they swelled, the boots were coming too tight on my feet, and I was cutting off my circulation. So I bought these guys, and they're a size and a half too big for what I would normally wear. Wearing them in Lincoln, they would be flopping around on my feet, but when you go up high, they actually fit properly.
They swell a little bit?
Yeah, the feet swell a lot. Yeah.
And then you put a clamp or something
These
on
are
the
crampons. Yep. So they got 10 or 12 spikes depending on the model, and you attach these to the bottom of the boot, and it lets you walk up actually truly vertical water ice. You could climb a waterfall, not with this pair, they're not quite the right design, but for very steep snow and ice climbing, they keep you from slipping. And they're actually an amazing little tool. And we could talk for 10 minutes about just crampons if you were that bored.
I wish we had 2 hours to tell the story.
And then
it's
the ice axe.
fascinating.
And then again, just like crampons, there's different styles of these. This is a mountaineering, a lightweight, high altitude mountaineering ice axe. And everything that you buy for climbing has some compromise built into it. You can go with lightweight, you can go with sturdy, you can go with inexpensive, but you can't have all three. You have to choose what priorities are important for the particular climb that you're on. And for Everest, lightweight's the number one thing.
Well, for those of us of an age, we will probably remember the first climbers, people to reach the summit at Mount Everest. Of course, Sir Edmund Hillary and the Sherpa guide, Tenzing Norgay. And this is 1953.
Yep.
How on earth could they have ascended to the summit at that period of time?
That was mind-boggling. Their equipment was nothing like today's. You know, this ice axe weighs about 9 or 10 ounces. Their ice axe would have weighed 3 or 4 pounds. They didn't have the front points on their crampons, so they couldn't go up straight up steep ice. They had to chop steps like a staircase with their great big ice axe into the snow and the ice. And so each step might take several minutes of effort just to chop a step into the ice. Those guys deserve incredible amount of credit.
Yes, they
Plus
do.
the route wasn't trailblazed.
Yeah.
There were no ropes in place. They didn't even know if it was physically possible.
An extraordinary feat.
Yeah.
You said that you were 100% sure you were going to die. Why did
Maybe
you didn't?
99
Obviously you didn't. You were wrong.
Maybe 99.9.
Why did you think you were going to die? You'd already done it 3 times.
Yeah, well, I had
Made the attempt 3 times.
I had made the attempt. I hadn't reached the summit, and so this fourth time, a lot of things conspired, and I ended up spending a lot more time above 26,000 feet. And climbers call 26,000 feet and higher, they call that the death zone, because everybody, I don't care who you are, Sherpa or non-Sherpa, you're slowly dying at that altitude. And my rate of dying wasn't quite slow enough, and I started to fill up with fluid in my lungs. I had pulmonary edema, and I was drowning on dry ground, and I got to a point where they detached my oxygen bottle to change it, and they couldn't get the new one hooked up. And with that oxygen stopping and the lungs filled with fluid, I was just drowning, and I thought this was it.
Why did you decide you wanted to climb Mount Everest?
There's no good answer to that question, is there? I read a book as a teenager about a climb of another big mountain in Nepal, a mountain called Annapurna. And if you read the story, it's all kinds of suffering and heartache. The 2 guys who summited ended up losing all 10 fingers and all 10 toes to frostbite.
And that's common, isn't it?
It's somewhat common, and I read this book as about a 15, 16-year-old kid, and I guess it proves I'm not real smart. I read the book, I thought, that's fantastic, I want to try this. You know, minus the finger losing part. You know, I didn't want to go through that part, but everything else just seemed, what an adventure. You know, little kids, they read Robinson Crusoe and Swiss Family Robinson. I think, how cool would it be to go live in a treehouse on an island? Well, I thought, how cool would it be to go climb Mount Everest?
Well, we're going to look at the pictures of him climbing Mount Everest. And would you explain the base camps? How does this work?
Sure. So there's a total of 5 camps on the south side, the Nepal side of Everest. The other side's a little bit different. There's base camp and then camp 1, 2, 3, and 4. And these pictures are base camp at the very bottom. Base camp's about 17,500 feet, so 3,000 feet higher than anything in Colorado. Base camp is pretty comfortable. You spend a lot of time there. You're in and out of base camp for almost 2 months. So you have a nice dining tent set up. They put indoor-outdoor carpet on the ground. You eat good meals. You have a nice private tent that you can sleep in. We have a bathroom tent with a toilet in it and with a shower. Life is pretty good at base camp.
First class.
It's first class, yeah. Well, you're spending almost 2 months. You need to be comfortable physically because it's so hard on you mentally.
Yeah, well, you couldn't do it without the Sherpa guides, though. What
Absolutely.
is their role?
100% true.
Explain.
So the Sherpas, and Sherpa is a misnomer for a lot of people. It is not a job description. It doesn't mean some guy who carries your luggage. Sherpa is a people group, and those guys have the strength that we don't have at high altitude, and without them, we're not making that climb.
Well, now, did those 3 guys go with you, or just one guy?
So this picture is me and Phil Crampton. He's an Englishman, the other taller guy. The 2 shorter guys are both Sherpas. Pasanga Wangchu on my left, the right side of the picture, and Sanghi in the middle. Both those guys summited with me, and both of them were instrumental in saving my life, getting me back down again. And love those guys like brothers, and they saved my life.
Well, here's a picture that terrified me when I saw it. And I mean, look at the crevasse, and those open periodically up on the mountain, and you're walking across it, a ladder, and you've got cleats on your boots.
Yeah.
And I looked at that picture and said, no way. No,
it makes for good video and good photographs. Ironically, I find that about the easiest part of the whole climb, because most of the time you're going level, you're not climbing anything. There are some ladders that go vertical, but typically you're just going across a span of a gap there, and those gaps
But you're walking on a ladder with cleats on your boots.
Yeah, it has your full attention.
Yeah.
You're certainly paying attention, you're not goofing around, but physically it's not difficult to do, and it makes good video.
Now, you could have or did freeze some of your fingers and your toes.
I could have, I didn't. I had my system so dialed in this trip after all the other climbing I'd done, especially on Everest. And I honestly, it was super cold. There was a lot of frostbite that night.
But did you have some on your face?
Bit on my face, yeah. But other than that, I had no frostbite. I wasn't even really aware that it was that cold because my gear was so dialed in. I had electric boot heaters, never turned them on.
Well, you said when you tried to eat, you'd throw up, you would vomit.
Yeah, it's your body has priorities for where the oxygen goes. Your brain, your heart, your lungs are the highest priority. Your stomach is lower priority. You can get by without eating for a while. And so you put food in your mouth and your body just rejects it. Your stomach isn't prepared to take it, and it doesn't even make it to your stomach. It just comes right back up again.
Mm-hmm. Is everybody on oxygen?
There are a few who climb without oxygen. It's really risky. First of all, you get much colder. Second, you can't think as clearly. The death rate for people without oxygen is, I don't know, 20 or 30 times higher than people with oxygen. It's theoretically possible for a select few people who have super good lung capacity. I'm not one of those people. I couldn't do it without oxygen. But it's also highly, highly dangerous.
What about women? Are women climbing?
Women are climbing, yeah,
Everest?
30, 35, 40% of the
That's
climbers are
amazing.
women, and they do a fantastic job. They're strong, they show up prepared, just as capable as any guy up there. Yeah.
So the smallness of them is an advantage?
Small size seems to be an advantage. You know, you get the people who are sort of 120 pounds, 5'3", 4'5". You know, they're hauling less bulk up the mountain. Their heart and lungs don't have to support big shoulders and big arm muscles that really aren't that important for climbing Mount Everest. You really need a big heart, big lungs, and kind of big legs, and everything else tiny.
So actually, how long did it take you to make it all the way up to the top to 29,000 plus feet?
I was gone about 75 days total, Lincoln to Lincoln. You get to the mountain and you spend about 5 or 6 weeks acclimatizing. You go up part of the way, come back down and recover, go a little higher, come back down and recover. So you're like a yo-yo for 5 or 6 weeks.
Why are you going back down?
Each time you go up a little bit higher, your body gets kind of shocked and you find it very hard to eat, very hard to sleep. You're deteriorating pretty quickly. But your body is also realizing we got to do something about this problem, and it starts to grow more and more blood cells. And so you come back down so you can rest, recover, eat, sleep. And mentally, it's really hard up there. It's really cold. You know, it's very austere, very stark environment.
Can you communicate with your fellow climbers?
Sure. So, you know, typically we're climbing from camp to camp at about the same schedule, so you may or may not see them on the hike, on the climb or the hike, depending where you are. You know, at each camp you have dining tents, so you have dinner together. We all carry radios, so if we get separated and we need some help with something, we can radio each other. And then you can also communicate with home. I had a little GPS device that you could text from. And I actually texted my wife from the summit of Mount Everest.
It didn't freeze up there?
I kept it inside my jacket, kept it warm.
Well, now, you said you climbed at night.
Yes.
That terrifies me.
Night climbing it is scary the first few times you do it. You know, humans are kind of like, I guess from our caveman days, we're predisposed to be a bit nervous at nighttime, want to be inside and safe. But it's a big mountain and it's going to take you 18 hours, so either you're going up in the dark or down in the dark. And if you think about climbing a staircase, would you rather fall going up or fall going down? You'd rather fall going up the staircase, you're going to bang your knee. Fall down the staircase, you go a long way. So it's the same thing on a mountainside. If you're going to stumble around in the dark, do it going up.
Okay. Well, you finally reached the summit of Mount Everest. Yep. What were your thoughts at that time? I mean, the accomplishment is extraordinary.
I had a whole flood of emotions. Obviously, I was elated. You know, I've been dreaming about this for almost 40 years, and so I was super excited to get there. You know, the beauty.
And this is at the top, right?
The beauty, that's
and
the top.
What is the picture?
That's my family, my wife, and my 3 kids, and my mother and my 2 daughters' birth mother. My 2 daughters are from Nepal. The emotion that surprised me was I felt sad when I stepped foot on the top. And I've summited tons of mountains in my life, and I've never felt sad on any of them. And this one I felt really sad amongst all the other emotions. And I realized it was this symbolic ending of a huge chapter of my life. You know, for 39 years I had dreamed of climbing Mount Everest.
And tried it 4 times.
And tried it 4 times. And with this last final step, I had reached the top. That dream was now in the past. And it was part of who I was as a person was now in the past. And it wasn't like I lost a child or a spouse or something, but it was like a distant friend died. You know, I felt this sense of loss.
And you adopted the 2...
we have 2 Nepali daughters, yeah.
Nepali, is that how you call them?
Nepali, from the country of Nepal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
They're gorgeous.
Beautiful. Yeah. What age are they now?
I'm a little partial. The taller one in the picture is Sony. She is 25 years old, and she joined our family when she was 2. And her half-sister, Kaylin, is 19, and she joined our family when she was 14.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
What a feat. It's extraordinary, and we're so glad you're from Lincoln, Nebraska, and would go all the way over to Nepal and climb 29,000 feet. Boy,
Yeah.
that's really
It's a great
amazing.
country. It's a fantastic place to visit.
Well, we thank you very much,
Thank
Robert
you.
Kay from Lincoln, Nebraska. We're very proud of him. And remember, it's never too late for you to live and learn and set your goals high.
Legal services are a part of the spectrum of senior services available through our 8 area agencies on aging. Attorneys can assist and educate seniors on consumer credit and debt collection issues, as well as help them plan ahead with advance directives. Attorneys can also help seniors with consumer fraud and financial exploitation concerns, and also guide them through government benefit issues. For more information, contact the Elder Access Line at 800-527-7249.
Hi, I'm Kim Hichia. Welcome to Live and Learn. Today my guests are 2 women who are very well known to Aging Partners participants. Welcome Ann Height and Tracy Foreman. Ann is the Health and Fitness Program Assistant for Aging Partners, and she also teaches Tai Chi classes. And Tracy is Community Health Education Coordinator, I think, and a certified personal trainer. Welcome back. Thanks for joining me today, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks. Today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the, a lot of the classes, fitness and wellness classes that Aging Partners offers, and also some of the other things like clinics and lots of different things. And I know, Ann, you help coordinate those clinics, so let's talk about those first. Tell me about the health clinics that Aging Partners manages.
Okay. We have a collaboration when Aging Partners works with St. Mark's Church and University of Nebraska Medical Center Nursing School, and we offer clinics almost every week throughout the year on Wednesdays and Thursdays at 2 locations, and one is downtown location at the Senior Center, and the other one is at St. Mark's Vermeer House, just north of the church at 84th and Pioneers. And so we offer comprehensive foot care there, and we also do check cholesterol, check blood pressure, check glucose, and do earwax removal and bone density checks. So they're pretty popular clinics. People enjoy it.
Tell me about these clinics. Is it a walk-in? Is there a fee? How do I get looped into the clinic?
It's walk-in, and they're most Wednesday and Thursdays 9:30 to 1:30. And there's also transportation provided if someone needs that. And it's walk-in, and it's suggested contribution of $15 for the services, any of the services at one visit. And folks who are 50s and older can come, and it gives them lots of good education and information, and they always leave feeling happy with happy feet. So.
Oh, that's awesome. And I'm sure that it's an interesting experience for those student nurses too.
Yes, they get lots of good experience working with the people.
Right. Now, you also teach Tai Chi, which, tell me a little bit about Tai Chi, and apparently you're teaching a new type of, I don't know if there's such a thing as a new type of Tai Chi, but you're teaching something slightly different this year. So tell me about that.
Okay, Tai Chi, for those that don't know, is a Chinese form of exercise, and it's a series of body movements, slow and gentle, and it helps with flexibility, balance, improves strength, helps to promote overall health and calmness with people too. And there's no equipment required for Tai Chi. It's just a very relaxing, beneficial program. And we are doing a 2-week, this is evidence-based program, meaning lots of research has gone into to show that it proves and helps people with strength and balance for sure, which thus we know that then helps people to not fall. So this is a 2 times a week class for 12 weeks. And we are doing one at the Gateway Vista on September 19th and at the F Street Rec Center on September 12th. And they're both twice a week.
Okay. And then you talked a little bit about evidence-based, and I know that that's an important thing for Aging Partners. Tracy, tell me about why evidence-based exercise, anybody who's interested in an exercise program maybe should be looking for an evidence-based program.
Well, evidence-based programs are heavily researched, and the programs that we do come out of Stanford University, and so they had years of research attached to them, and they had lots of participants that participated in the research. And what they've come up with are several programs that are based on a 6 to 7 week format, and people come for 2 hours a week, 1 day a week, and they learn how to do things that will prevent falls, because we know that 1 out of 3 people over the age of 65 will fall at some time. And so the evidence-based programs really are focused on prevention and helping people to take charge of their health and take charge of their balance. So the 12-week program that Anne is working with is very slow and deliberate, and they learn usually 1 to 2 forms a week, and really helps to build core strength, flexibility, and a long bone strength, as well as build lean muscle mass. So we're very excited about the evidence-based programs we're doing, and Stepping On is one that has been extremely popular in the community. We have waiting lists for that class, and that was also developed at Stanford. It is a 7-week program, and it helps people to become more confident about walking and going out into the community, and we have lots of guest experts that come in, so great program.
And so I guess one of the evidence things you might want to talk about is that the whole idea of why we need to keep moving as a lifelong activity.
Well, we know getting stronger at any age is important, but especially as we get older, we tend to lose lean muscle mass pretty rapidly. And so it's very important to keep doing those exercises that strengthens not only our leg muscles, but also our upper body, and we want people to work into their torso. And so the Stepping On program includes a series of 8 exercises that anyone can do. This is not for people who are extremely physically fit. It's for people who are concerned about falling and want to improve their balance. So it will help to improve their lean muscle mass as well as their core strength. And then we talk about the different balance systems in the body and what muscles help with those systems. So,
well, fall is kind of, I think of it as sort of the mini new year. You know, we're coming back to school. Everybody kind of jump starts in the fall again, and I know that there's a lot of new activities that you guys are planning or maybe just restarting in different facilities. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? I'm kind of interested in this thing called Qigong.
Oh yeah, well, Qigong is one of those programs that is similar to Tai Chi, similar to yoga, not quite as expansive, but it focuses more on core strength and flexibility and the breath. It really is much like Tai Chi, meditation in motion. So it helps people to relax. We really try as instructors, and there's many of us who are trained not only in evidence-based programs, but also in the individual fitness programs. We try to stick with the fidelity of the program. And in our training, we learn that there are certain ways that are correct to do things, and so we try to stick with that. And we believe we're giving a great sampling of different types of exercise to the community.
Right. We talked about there's music and movement, and that a lot of your satellite centers are starting to maybe ramp back up. So what are some of those other activities people might be interested in, and how do they find out about them?
Starting in September, we will begin with our Music and Movement, which is a program that Ruth Hahn does, and she teaches people to move in a very fluid way, and which actually improves their balance and core strength. And she works with a lot of people who have Parkinson's. So not everyone, but a lot of people who come just want to improve their balance and core strength. And it's a fun class. We have dynamic movement, which is ramped up a little bit from music and movement, because we do some cardiovascular stuff, some strength building, some flexibility, and we do a lot of hand and eye coordination stuff in that class. So people who have a little better balance and are able to move into dance steps are probably going to be more interested in that. And of course, Qigong is new this fall, so we start that in September. And then we will have the yoga classes, various levels of yoga. We will have various levels of Tai Chi, as Anne talked about, and just lots of different evidence-based programs that include some exercise. And the new diabetes program will be coming out also in
tell me
September.
about that. Tell me about that.
It is also an evidence-based program that was developed in Stanford, and it is taking charge of your health basically if you have diabetes. And so we'll have lots of guest experts there with that one. And it is also a 7-week program, 2 hours, 1 day a week. So I think it's going to be very popular.
It does sound very popular. Now I know that this diabetes program kind of segues into another thing I wanted to chat about, which is that Aging Partners has a kind of a lecture series, or a speakers bureau, more like, I think would be. Why don't you talk about that and some of the things you talk about in the speakers bureau?
Well, the Health and Fitness Division of Aging Partners has about 20 programs that we can go out and do. Anyone can contact us to come out and speak to their group. We can do a 15 to 20 minute spot on the programs that we have available through Aging Partners. A lot of people just don't know what Aging Partners does. And we also have programs that run 30 minutes to an hour, and they're more entertaining or educational programs like Laughing Matters and Memory Lane, and we have one called Old Dogs, New Tricks, and Little White Lies. And so just fun programs, and all of them are educational. So our agency as a whole has speakers that will go out to and talk about whatever topics a person needs or wants to hear about.
Right. I think what I appreciate is hearing the whole idea of the evidence-based and the outreach, and that's very scientific, I guess, but it's also it's reliable information that's not just, oh, I saw it on the internet, must be true. You can count on what you're learning from Aging Partners to be well researched and well vetted, and that you're not just sort of flailing around just guessing. And I think you and we both chatted offline that Peggy, the supervisor, Peggy Apthorpe, who's been on the show, is that's kind of, she's very innovative, and that's kind of the mission of the organization is to learn new tricks.
Yeah, she's a huge advocate of the evidence-based program, because we know they're researched, and we know the fidelity is important in these programs.
And so you spend a lot of time training, right? I mean,
yes.
You guys have to learn the new things too.
Yes, several people across Nebraska have come together and trained in the Tai Chi programs, and we had Suman Barkas come. He is originally from Mongolia and then moved to China, so he is the real deal when it comes to a Tai Chi master. And he has trained us in workshops, and we've worked with Dr. Lee, who is developing the Tai Chi for Better Balance program. So we get trained in those, and evidence-based programming. We go in for some very extensive training, and then we become facilitators in the programs. And there's usually 2 of us in each of these evidence-based programs.
So how many people are involved in teaching, and how many locations are you guys teaching at?
Well, we have, I'm not sure how many instructors we have across Nebraska, but we have 2 facilitators at each class.
Okay.
We are usually trained by 2 to 3 people, but there are 2 of us that go into a class. And we also have guest experts that come in, a physical therapist, and we'll have a pharmacist and a vision expert that will come in also. So we work with the community. We partner with them to come in and train people, but usually 2 facilitators in each class.
That's great, because it allows you as an instructor to be able to give a more personal touch to everybody, and focus on safety and doing things correctly, and not you don't want to just get out there and just sort of hop around, because that's an easy way to end up in injury city. So
Right.
that's a good
And we do teach people the proper shoes to wear and the right way to walk when the weather's bad. And we know in Nebraska that happens. So
right. That's really important.
they leave with a lot more confidence.
That's good. So how, if somebody wanted to find out about your classes, how would they do that? How would they find out?
We would ask them to call the Health and Fitness office, and that is at 402-441-7575.
Okay.
And they can talk to any one of us, and we'll get them signed up for classes.
Okay, good. And I think, are you one of the people that people have to get to talk to, Anne? As one of
Sometimes
the
I answer the phone as well. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, ladies. This has just been an interesting time. I have
you.
for a long time sort of toyed with the idea of taking Tai Chi and Qigong, so this may be the impetus to push me off the stump to try something new in my life and learn a new thing and discover my core fitness.
There you go. Now's the time.
I really thank you. It reminds me that, as we like to say here on Live and Learn, that you're never too late to live and learn.